Hello, and congratulations on your COVID Vaccine Equity and Outreach Award. I'm Sherry Olson, and I am the Business and Finance Services Manager for Public Health. I should say Clackamas County Public Health. And I am here today with the admin team to show you how to prepare your budget and your funding request forms. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the team to you. All right. Okay, I've already introduced myself. So Shane, why don't you go ahead and go from here?
Yeah, my name is Shane McRae. I'm currently working as a financial analyst for Clackamas County Public Health, and I'll be assisting in your budgeting.
My name is Andrew Hattai. I'm an accountant with Clackamas County Public Health, and I'll be assisting with your invoicing. Jane, you're muted.
This is Jean Weber. I am the Management Analyst Senior. I lead the contracts team, and I will assist you with contract issues.
And my name's Angelique Nomi. I'm the grant administrator, so I sort of help tie all the above together.
Great. First, we want to start with your project budget. And I know you were sent a budget template with your award letter from Adam Torres. If you did not receive that at the end of this meeting, or excuse me, at the end of this, we'll have our contact information and you can reach out to us and we'll make sure you get it. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and have Shane talk about an example budget for you. Here you go, Shane.
All right. I think the top's pretty self-explanatory. Your organizational name will go on the top. Funded project name will be based on what you designated your project to be. The project contact should be the authorized signer for the invoicing. The agreement term would be based on the events that you've listed out and what you plan on doing. Personnel, when you get in there, you'll see that there's instructions off to the right. You can add lines. You should list out all personnel that are internal to your company that are on your payroll, as well as any benefits that would apply to them, separate lines for both benefit and salary. Going into supplies, that'll be any of your advertising materials or other supplies that you purchase for the events. Contracts would be any kind of outside personnel that you have hired or contracted with that are not on your internal personnel. Travel would be consisted of from your organization to the event and back, and any hotel costs or anything associated with the event as well. Additional would be any other expenses that don't fit into those categories that you'll see on the invoice when Andrew presents. And unfortunately, indirect charges are not allowed, which we'll go over later as well. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Shane. All right, we are going to have Andrew walk us through an invoice sample, and then I will go through the federal award identification. So without further ado, I will give this over to Andrew so that he can get you started.
Okay. So we're going to go over an invoice example really quick. I say really quick, but it is fairly detailed. So bear with me. And at the end of this, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I am available as often as I can be. The first page of the invoice document is a list of instructions. These are relatively high-level instructions, just the bare basics of what you need to do. But we're going to be going over everything in a little bit more detail as we run through the example. The main page that you're going to be worrying about to start off with is the funding request form. The cells that are in light blue, as you can see here, they are cells that need to be filled in by you using your numbers, your information, and and assembled together so we have something easily readable, shall we say. These cells that are in gray, they're either informational or they're auto-calculating. So there should not be a point where you're going to need to modify them. If you think that there is, check with us first. I can almost guarantee you that's not going to be the case. The darker blue cells, they have much more detailed instructions in them. But once again, as we go through the example, it's not going to be much of an issue here. So proceeding with the example, you start off the top, organization name, we're going to say ABC Inc. Next, we have the contract number. We'll just say 123. The dates here, they're in a drop-down box, so you will have to click off to the right. And we're gonna say, started on 8/1, and then it ended on September 30th. So 2-month project time. You will be required to bill us in 30-day increments. So for a situation like this, you'll need to bill us for April expenses and then September expenses on separate invoices. You will have 15 days after that time, after the 30 days closes, to get us the invoice. So for example, August, once August is over, you have till September 15th to have the invoice in my inbox. All right, here we go. Payroll, that is the first option on here. This is going to be payroll for all of your internal workers. For this example, to say payroll costs were $1,500, including benefits and all the just pay, benefits, everything else that goes with it. Subcontractor contract work. Let's say you had to rent a tent for 3 days to throw up in your parking lot to make it a useful environment, and that 3-day rental cost you $800. If you needed to do something like workforce recruitment and training, so this would be if you're having your own employees do the vaccines, obviously they're going to need training to do that. You'll have to put that in there. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. So you have mileage, outreach, that's going to be your advertising, translation and interpretation. So if you have people like, if you don't have people like that already on staff and you have to bring in outside contractors to do it, that will be in there. Vaccine site space rental. If you don't own the property where you're going to be setting this up at and you have to pay for it, that goes in there. And everything else is fairly self-explanatory. Down here at the bottom, these are your other budgeted expenses that you have that don't really fit in any of these other categories. You will have to put in the description as well as the dollar amount to go with it. The next page is the invoice summary. This is just what's on the tin, essentially. It's a summary of everything that was on the last page. So we'll call this invoice number 1. This is going to be your contract number that you have with us. So 123. The date, we'll say this one was 9/15. And the company is ABC Inc. Then your address, the contact should be the person who is assembling this invoice for you. The same, and the telephone and email address should be their contact information, so we can reach out if we have any questions. Tax ID and EIN, that's going to be your information. You should have that available. Down at the bottom, description of the event. So just real quick, what was it? Just like 10 words or less, shall we say. This portion is going to be what you need for calculating the payroll that we need from you. Or this is going to be the payroll calculation for what was put on this page. So 1,500. If you are using software that automatically allocates time cards and does payroll and all that, you'll change the drop down to yes, and put the name of the file that you will be attaching along with this invoice in this box. So we'll just call it payroll.xlsx. We prefer Excel files, but send us what you got. This number here, payroll output dollar amount, this number is going to be what you're requesting reimbursement for on the payroll out of this payroll document that you're sending us. This number should match what is here. So 1,500. 1,500. And then that's that page done if you already have an Excel file ready for us. If, on the other hand, you do not, we'll set this box to no and come over here to sheet 3B. This page is essentially a breakdown of every day of the month from now until the end of the contract period. For We're going to do an example, real quick example here. First person's name is John Doe. And we'll say John worked 10 hours a day on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. We're going to scroll all the way over to the end and put in John's hourly rate. We'll say he's very well paid and he made $50 an hour. That will give us our $1,500 number over here. This number will also track back to over here. And you'll notice that instead of it being red because it was zero, it's now 1,500 and it is gray. The red is just a very quick visual check to make sure that the numbers match between the two columns. Makes everybody's life a little bit easier. Next, we have the expense documentation. This is going to be for your outside contractors. So those tents that I was talking about earlier, that was a subcontractor work. Let's see, we'll say they billed you on 8/25, and it was rent a tent, and their invoice number was 5. Details, tents for event, and the dollar amount, which was $800. And this number will automatically come all the way back over here. So now we have a check, no longer red. We're good to go on that front. One thing to note, anything that goes onto this sheet, we will need a copy of the invoice or a copy of the receipt scanned and sent to us in addition to all the other documentation. So please keep that in mind. You will get an email asking for it if we're missing anything. The very last sheet here is the certification. This is pretty much you saying that, yes, this is true to the best of your knowledge, all the legalese. So it'll be dated, prepared by whoever wrote this up, and then the authorized agent signature, which is whoever signed the contract with us to get the funds. I know I kind of raced through this, but if you have any questions at all later on, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than willing to help because I know this can be kind of difficult at times. And with that, I think we're done with the invoice portion.
Fabulous. Thank you, Andrew. I just want to reiterate that when you're sending in the invoice to public health, to make sure that you send along the scanned documents of your receipts that go along with this, as well as the payroll software database or Excel spreadsheet that you're sending along. All right, so with that, I will go back to the presentation here and hopefully it'll pull up for me. All right, so I just wanted to start with this funding it's a federal fund. It's passing through the feds, through the state, through the Department of Administrative Services. Then it's coming to Clackamas County, and then we're pushing it through to you. This is coronavirus relief funding, and there are federal requirements that we have whenever we are granting out this funding or contracting out this funding. And that those requirements get pushed down to you. So I apologize for the detail-oriented invoicing and expense tracking that we have to do, but it's a requirement because this is auditable work and we have to, like I said, follow the federal rules. So with that being said, I'm notifying you all now in this federal award identification of what the funding is tied to, what's the source of that funding. This DAS grant number 2603 is the county, Clackamas County's grant number. So because it's passing through us, I'm passing it through you. So the federal award identification number is the SLT. This information is going to be important to keep with your financial records, just in case of an audit or in your financial reporting annually. They're going to require this. So the different levels, you can see it's saying the terms, the dollar amount that's passing through, the federal award project description. The U.S. Department of Treasury is the federal awarding agency. And I will go to the next one here. And you can see your CFDA number right here, name and amount. This is usually the 21.019 is how they track these federal awards, and it's any award that's given through this particular resource that has this particular CFDA number. And we will describe in a minute here about indirect cost rate, which is not allowable on this, and direct administrative costs. Again, any of the questions you may have on this, you can always reach out to us and we can answer your questions then. All right, I've attached this slide here just to let you know that we are going to be sending this presentation with this video to you all. And we have some links here that you have. If you have any questions about allowable costs, you can go ahead and click on these two different funding lines, or excuse me, these two links, and they will give you additional information about what this particular funding source will allow in expenses. The direct administrative costs are allowed and indirect costs are not allowed. And we've got some descriptions here on what that means. Again, any questions regarding this, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself, Shane, or Andrew, and we can help you with all of these pieces. All right, last but not least, I want to make sure that you all have the contacts here in public health admin on who can help you with what. So as you notice here, I started with Adam. You've all have already spoke with Adam. He's the one that issued your award letter and sent the budget template. But again, here is his email address if you need anything from him. For all of your financial services, budget and funding requests, that is going to be coming to Public Health Fiscal AP at clackamas.us. This email is accessible to myself, Shane, and Andrew. So I would like you to all use that versus always reaching out to us individually, because if one of us isn't there to answer, we have somebody else that can step in. If for some reason you are having a conversation with us directly, go ahead and use our personal emails, well, work emails, but personal to each of us. For contracting, that is Jean. You met her earlier on in this presentation, and Jean and her team can help you with the contract agreement that you're entering into. And the grant admin coordination is Angelique, as she was introduced earlier, and her contact information is there. Looks like I got a little excited and skipped forward a bit, but we'll work with it. So this last piece is actually the dates every Wednesday starting next week, which is going to be August 25th. We have a half-hour Zoom meeting set up for all of our awardees to Zoom in and get their questions answered regarding all of the financial funding requests and the budget. Shane, myself, and Andrew, there will always be at least one of us on that meeting to answer your questions, if not all of us. At the bottom of the screen here, you can see the Zoom link. This is how you're going to enter into that meeting each week. So go ahead and use that. And again, we'll be there to answer your questions. Of course, at the end of all of that, we are always available for questions. You have our contact information. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. And we are looking forward to meeting you all, and congratulations again. We'll talk soon.